Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's the Full 40 with Chris, Rob, and Willie with a special edition of the podcast, one we're really excited about, one we talked about that we were excited about on Twitter. We've been wanting to kind of interview these guys for a long time, and we're very excited to be able to bring this to you. So we've got with us Coach Ashley Howard, who was assistant coach at Villanova for many years before being the head coach at LaSalle, and is now co-chair, co-head of Friends of Nova, as well as his co-head, Randy Foye, who another guest who doesn't need any introduction, but we'll give one anyway. In an absolute legend, Villanova, played in the NBA for many years as well, and helped lead the 2005 and 2006 teams to a Sweet 16 and Elite 8 that are very memorable runs. And Randy, I got to say, I still think back to to every drive that you made in that 2006 Sweet 16 game against Boston College to get that win, to get us over the hump and get that win for us. So appreciate that very much. So as a fan.
Back when BC was relevant, back in the days.
It's messed up.
But welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about Friends of Nova above anything else, because this is our NIL collective that you guys have kind of spearheaded here, and we are very excited about it. It is the future, current and future of college sports. And for us at Villanova, obviously college basketball on the top of everyone's mind. And this is really good and timely as people kind of look at, okay, where does the future take us? We got, there's the transfer portal, there's the name, image, and likeness, the NIL aspect to things, and really happy to have you on to talk about Friends of Nova and the work that you're doing there. I guess I'll just start in with that. Kind of tell us a little bit more about how this came together and what you're trying to accomplish.
So, Friends of Nova, like you said, it's the collective for all Villanova student athletes. And, during the summer, with all the transition going on, had some conversations with Coach Neptune and some of our administrators. And at the time, the university couldn't have any involvement in a collective. So they needed third-party individuals to spearhead it. And Randy and I were approached about it. Two guys that are obviously connected to the Villanova program. Randy, being, just not just a legend, but just the great, person and ambassador for the university that he is. And then, me just having the background in coaching and understanding the program, we're two guys that in this moment, we're really eager to attack this opportunity to lead Villanova into this NIL era, right? So, we've been working hand in hand since really October, just trying to create awareness, raising money with alums, meeting, emails, going to games, engaging people, and just creating awareness. And honestly, Randy has done a really good job of just really delivering the message of how important it is to some of our key alums, and we've made some significant ground, over the last couple of months. So it's something that we're excited about, and something that isn't going away. So we're really excited to be on the ground level of it.
Now, for some of our listeners who may not be quite as close to kind of the technicalities, like, can you just give us like a quick reminder, like what's really the goal of NIL? Like, what are we really trying to accomplish for some of the students here?
Well, I think for Villanova, we're doing things in a unique way. We're not going to do things like a football school. Every guy that's out there that's a 5-star recruit, we're not, going to deplete what we build in our collective to go after one guy. If that guy is that good and he's a 5-star and he fits the Villanova mold, and coach and the staff said this is our guy, then we'll do it. But every year you're not going to see us just go out and deplete the Friends of Nova war chest just to get 1 or 2 guys. So I think the thing for us is we're trying to build the war chest, and the war chest that we build, we're just making sure we cross all our T's and dot all our I's, understanding exactly what we need, the approach that we should take on players that are still in high school, players that may be in the transfer portal, and also retaining players because the ecosystem of the NIL is something that every school throughout this nation is facing. And the language and the legislation is changing weekly. But, Ashley, our team that we have behind us is staying on top of things. And we're excited because this is a great place where student athletes throughout the university, not just basketball, but throughout the university, can earn off of their name, image, and likeness.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you call that out, especially because the first event that I can remember seeing was I think the holiday event with young educated athletes. So it was interesting to see that the first NIL event that at least I remember seeing was something that was very core to the Villanova mold. And it felt really, I was like, I can tell we're doing it, quote unquote, the right way. So I thought that was really cool I'm assuming from both of you guys.
Yep. So one of the cool things about Friends of Nova is there's multiple ways that you can make a donation or a contribution, right? You go to friendsofnova.com. It's pretty transparent, but you can go and you can make a donation to the Friends of Nova LLC. And then we have a subsidiary foundation called the BPS Foundation, which allows all of our donors to get a tax write-off if they make a donation to the BPS Foundation. Now, most of the donations, well, all of the donations that go to the foundation, when we create engagement, so not only do Randy and I, raise money, and we're coming up with different initiatives to help, really fundraise to make our war chest really significant, but we also create engagements to pay the student athletes as well, right? So, we wanted our first engagement to be a community service driven initiative, which will be a lot of our engagements that we engage our student athletes with. And it's a great opportunity being in the Philadelphia metropolitan area where you have a lot of different local community organizations that would love to engage with all of our student athletes. And because Villanova is a mission service-based school, faith-based school, I think that aligns right with the mission of the school, where we can create NIL opportunities where we engage the community. And one of the things that people don't realize is our guys actually, when we created this first engagement, said that they wanted to use some of their NIL money to buy gifts for the kids from young educated athletes. So our guys took some of their money, their own NIL money, and they purchased gifts for the kids. And like some of the guys were even like, listen, like I could do more. We're like, yo, like you don't have to do more. You know what I mean? Like we appreciate the gesture, but so like that's the cool thing, right? So I know NIL gets a negative connotation because it's like pay for play, whatever. And I get it if we were just the only ones involved trying to like have an advantage, right? But everybody's doing it. And there was a moment where we felt like, dang, man, we might be behind, we're at a disadvantage. We're catching up. But the reality is, I think that we have an opportunity to maintain our elite status in this NIL space because of the way we operate, because of the way we function. Randy hit on it, where he said, listen, we're not just going to go out and just try to target like all these 5 stars and like sell our soul, right? But at the same time, there's a lot of NIL information going on where players aren't getting what they thought they were going to get, right? So at least, any kid that's being recruited by Villanova, when the topic of NIL comes up, like they'll know, that whatever we have to offer, they're going to get. We won't oversell anybody on our NIL situation just to sell our soul and get a recruit. That's not how we're operating.
Right. Yeah, and I think some of that. To me, I think to us on the podcast, we don't view NIL negative at all. It's actually kind of like a long time overdue. But I do think where some of the negative connotation might come in is you saw I remember at the end of the season, I think it was like maybe late April or something like that. You see something along the lines of like, oh, such and such players transferring from one school to Miami and because he's getting $1 million NIL deal. And it's like, oh, wait, hold on a second. That feels a little bit, disingenuous, if you will. But at the same time, we're talking now, this is table stakes. This is now like, you don't play basketball. You don't play high level Division I anything anymore without having a baseline level of NIL. Similar to in the years past, we needed to build the Davis Center, right? We needed to have different gym and facilities and stuff like that. Like, so obviously the race, so to speak, to compete gets ratcheted up. But the unique thing about NIL is that it's not directly through the university, whereas the university could go out and get the Davis brothers to donate that wonderful facility. In this case, this has to be separate. That's why you made the point about, hey, this needs to be separate. The players are allowed to profit off of their name, image, and likeness, but the school has to stay at, I guess, is it arm's length or just fully away from everything?
The one thing that the school is always aware of, we have to play by the rules. Everything that we do is done directly through compliance.
Right.
So there's nothing that we're ever going to do where we don't run it past multiple sources and say, hey, this is what we want to do. Is this illegal? Does this make sense? Villanova from the beginning, since I've been there, even before me, Broly Massimino, and all of these Lapis, Coach Wright. The thing when I was there was, hey, we need a better locker room. Our alumni, right? Our top alumni, our boosters, our fan base, they created that space and we got the best locker room. Then you said, right, when I was getting ready to leave and make my way onto the next chapter of my life, it was, we need a practice facility. Everyone around the country, when these recruits are coming in, they're walking into their practice facilities, right? And they putting a video on, kids are loving it. We don't have it. We have St. Mary's, we have Jake Nevin.
I'm glad I remember. I was there with you. I remember what it looked like before.
And we have the pavilion. We don't have that. Well, like you said, the Davis brothers got together and they put that together. Now we have the Davis Center. And then you start looking at certain schools around the country, and these schools around the country are building brand new arenas. How can we have one of the best teams over the last 15 years and we don't have a new arena? So you have Finneran come in and say, hey, I'll put the money up. I just need everybody else to do it. And along with the school, the Finneran family, and other alumni, they created something that's special now. You walk into, I walk into the Finn Pavilion, and it don't even look like what I used to play in, looking from the stands, the scoreboard and everything. So it's just something new pops up every 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And in this situation, it's NIL. And kids, it's long overdue. I look back when I played, it was NCAA 2005, right? And I was on that game, the exact same skin tone, the exact same number. The game was the same, but my name wasn't on the back of the jersey. And the reason why my name was, I never understood why my name wasn't on the back of the jersey. But now I get it doing what I do now, because if my name is on the back, they basically treat me like a pro. And when you play pro ball, the NBA PA gets that money. The NBA gets that money and gives it back to you. They split it down the middle, give it back to you. And that's a part of the 51-49 or the 50-50 split at the end of the year. So understanding that now, that the reason why my name wasn't on it, because I was a collegiate athlete, and EA Sports, they paid the NCAA. They didn't pay the players. So just like I said, something happens every 5 to 10 years, and 5 to 10 years from now is going to be something else. And Villanova has always been in a situation where they were always flexible and willing to work. Our boosters are amazing, but we're all willing to work outside of the box to make sure that this blue blood, this tradition is on no matter what we're up against.
Yeah, and I think, Randy, you alluded to, a lot of things. You gave some of your examples about the locker room, about the pavilion, and Villanova kind of catching up to some other schools. And a lot of that, I would say, was probably more, private donations, certainly, rather than NIL, which we're talking about now. So NIL, and you guys kind of alluded to this so far. My impression from an outsider's perspective is that it's being used by schools in, a pretty broad variety of manners, and tapping into students, like you guys said, who are considering coming to the school, who are in the recruiting process, who are at the school already, so that they can capitalize on, Randy, your great performance, right? If you were there, you would have been able to capitalize on it, and certainly, add to your personal war chest for sure. And then also being able to, help students who are thinking about coming in via the transfer portal, or, potentially even retaining them through the transfer portal. So it's like you're hitting a lot of different levels here, and it's playing a much broader role in the landscape, pretty quickly. I'm curious, what your guys' take is. Where does Villanova stand relative to some of these other schools in the landscape? Like, are we playing catch up? Like, do our alumni need to be chipping in here? And like, how aggressive, how urgent is this?
I mean,
well, for me,
the sense of urgency needs to be high. We need everybody to be all hands on deck and embrace this new opportunity. And you know what? I see a lot of chatter, man. It's like, put your money where your mouth is.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
And you can go to friendsandnova.com, right? And you can make a donation right now. And with all of the donations, Randy and I's responsibility is to, create engagements that we pay the players, right? There's so many different opportunities within NIL. The way we're utilizing Friends of Nova is we're trying to make everything streamlined so that our student athletes have a baseline that they know they're going to meet every year in regards to NIL. And we create the engagements to make sure that they get to that baseline throughout.
Can you talk a little bit about those engagements? Like, what specifically are you talking about? I know you kind of alluded to a couple earlier. Are these different events, different things like that, just to give our listeners a little bit of a flavor for it?
Yep. So our first engagement that we had was an event that we did with Young Educated Athletes, which is a 501c3 based out of the Philadelphia area, where we had it was about 28 middle school students come to campus. We split the group up into two, and we split our team up with each group. And we did tours of the Davis Center and the Finneran Pavilion. And our guys got opportunity to talk to them about the day in the life of a Villanova men's basketball player and student athlete. They got a chance to talk to them about, the sacrifices they made in high school to become Division I athletes. They got a chance to talk to them about every aspect of their life, from training to nutrition to time management to academics. And the parents were blown away, right? And that was really like a test run for us, right? So that was a great opportunity. We have events that we're going to be hosting in the future. We're going to have a fantasy camp towards the end of July this year, where fans can pay to come to campus and engage with our current players, some of our alumni, be coached by them, be on the floor with them, do drills.
It's a really good idea.
Play on team. right? And we'll have that experience. We're going to be hosting a golf outing. And all of these dates are to be determined, but all of these plans are in the works, right? In addition to our blue white scrimmage, in addition to our Hoops on the Hudson event that we do every year in New York City that we're taking over, the collective is taking over. We're going to try to spice that up, make it something, new, fresh, something that our fan base can be excited about, but also make it an event that everybody can look forward to every year, knowing that the proceeds are going to go directly to Friends of Nova and are going to help, pay our student athletes.
That's awesome.
So,
and to add on to that, I think one thing that you should, not you guys, but just people in general, especially Villanova fans and Villanova alumni, what we're doing with Friends of Nova, this access that fans are getting, this has never happened before, ever. So, yeah, you might have to come and you might have to help, with our collective and build our war chest, but this is us, right? So if you see we went after a guy and we got a guy, you're a part of that. You're directly a part of it if you help build the collective or you help Friends of Nova, right? So I think that people need to understand that this type of access, being around the players on multiple events throughout the year and out the summer, traditionally it do not happen. So this is something that I think we all should take pride in, because this isn't only our school, it's everyone's school. I talk to people on social media. I talk to people. I just went to a country club and had a conversation with some guys, and they were all for it. They just feel as though this is the direction and we got to get on board. We don't want to be late.
That's such a good point about, I think people look at NIL and it's benefiting the athletes. And of course, yes, it is. That's the main purpose of it. But now from a fan's perspective, like, I want everyone listening to think about this. Your access to hang out, to play against, to learn, to interact with them has completely changed.
Yes.
This wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. Maybe you run into Randy like at Connolly or something like that, but there's not that level of interaction. This is a cool opportunity to do that. So I just wanted to reiterate that, because I think that's a really great point that people.
And the reason, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but the reason is we're so busy. We're so busy. Yeah, I think we're student athletes. So everything we do first is as a student. And then secondly, we're basketball players. Anyone that knows, Ashley's been a Division I athlete. Your time when you're finished school, practice, and study hall, all you want to do is sleep.
Yeah.
And it repeats over and over and over. So you don't have time to say, hey, I want to go down to the Oreo, right? And we're going to do an event there, and we're going to meet fans, and we're going to take pictures and sign autographs for 2 hours. That would never happen. But in this space of NIL and what Friends of Nova are trying to do, we're trying to make our guys as available as possible, because we feel as though as a team and what we're trying to do, we think is important. If someone's going to say, hey, I'm going to donate X amount of dollars, we need to have our guys available for that.
Talk to us a little bit about, okay, so obviously there's the big money donors, there's the people with companies, there's the people who can say, hey, I own, and I'm just bringing something up, I own Wawa, and therefore Justin Moore can get paid by me because I have this behemoth organization that can afford Justin Moore, right? And I'm just giving that as an example, right? How can the average fan who goes to 2 or 3 games a year because they say, okay, I live in North Jersey and I go to the St. John's game and I go to a couple games at Wells Fargo and maybe make it to the Pavilion. I don't have a ton of disposable income to spend on Villanova basketball, but I want to be a part of it, right? I enjoy it. I want to be a part of it. This is a big part of my life. This is this is beyond a hobby of mine, to the point about the ownership over it, or the feeling like you're a part of it. It's my alma mater. So this is me. This is who I am. This is a part of what makes me part of it. And I want to contribute. How can the average fan contribute? And I know that there's the 501c3. element that you guys are working with as a sub. And then, but is there a way for fans, like, is it just through you guys is contributing to the organization that could say, hey, we could package this up together and your donation goes to this person or player? Like, how close can the fans really get to understanding kind of the flow of the money?
So the way it works is, you can make a donation. Obviously, the average fan can go to, friendsofnova.com, make a donation for $5 if you want, right? So there's no limit to how much you can give, and there's no floor either, right? So you can make recurring payments. You could start almost like a subscription where you make recurring payments on a monthly basis, whether it's like $10 a month, $5 a month. That money goes to the collective. And if you wanted to get with a group of your friends and say, listen, let's all put some money together to put into the collective, that works. Honestly, if you want to make an impact, spread the word about the collective NIL and about what we're doing to some of your fellow alums and people that are passionate about Villanova athletics, right? And it doesn't have to be men's basketball.
Right.
All of our student athletes should be able to capitalize on opportunities through Friends of Nova. And the way it all works is we have an engine behind us, Blueprint Sports. We have a great team of people that organize, the payment process, the tax process for our student athletes, and then any donation, they know where the money should go. So if it's a donation for $100 that should go to the women's soccer team, it's going to women's soccer, right? If you get a $1,000 donation that's supposed to go to track and field, it goes to track and field, right? And then Randy and I will facilitate the dialogue between us and the student athletes, and then we'll set up an engagement in a situation where they can be compensated. But the reality is, it's not pay for play, because every student athlete has to participate in an engagement under contract in order to get paid. So, and that just goes back to what Randy was speaking on in regards to just operating compliantly and not breaking any rules.
And just to
Like
clarify,
Ashley,
go ahead, Randy.
yeah, like Ashley, we're all of us as a this is a fan-driven collective, which is Friends of Nova. Every single person has ownership, right? When I'm watching my team play, I feel as though I'm out there. I know if you went to Villanova and we're competing and we're in certain situations, you feel like you're out there. If we win, I'm happy for the next 36 hours. If we lose, I'm down a little bit. But, I'm looking at it and saying, what was the good and what was the bad? And I'm taking the good and the bad and say, hey, I know how this program works and we're going to be better, right? So everyone has ownership. You can give $1 a month. That's ownership. You're a part of it. You can give $1,000 a month. You're a part of it. So we want everyone to feel as though what we're trying to do here is we're all in this together. Everyone's 10 toes down, and we understand that it takes a community to what we have done over the last 20 years has been amazing. And it has been all hands on deck, fans, alumni, whoever. And we feel as though now we need the fans and the alumni more than ever to stay where we're at, to keep our place with the schools that I won't name, but the Blue Bloods. So we want to continue to be mentioned, and in that breath where when you mention Villanova, what we have done to schools over the last 10 to 15 years.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to clarify, that because I think it's really important, Ash, that you mentioned, is this Friends of Nova applies to all sports, both men's and women's sports as well too. So this is not just a men's basketball focus, right? You guys are covering the whole gamut.
Absolutely. We're covering all sports. We've received donations for other sports. We're in conversations with, other sports teams about different ways that we may be able to create opportunities for their student athletes. But obviously, it started with men's basketball. based on obviously the demand from the Nova Nation fan base, the sense of urgency that we had to get behind the program with the coaching change and understanding the significance of the position that the team will be in, heading into this off season. It's been vital for us to really kind of drive the message for men's basketball, but we're here to support all of the student athletes.
That's great.
So, go ahead, Rob. Okay, so just want to take a little bit of a quick detour. It's a little bit more of like a technical question about the recruiting process. So, assuming a men's basketball player is interested in Villanova, comes on a visit, is talking to NEP, where do you all fit in the process? Are you all talking to parents as well? Is it they have to commit before you really start talking to them, or on their visit, are you kind of like, this is the outline of what it'll be, but obviously we'll get into the nitty gritty if you come to Villanova? Would love to hear about where you all fit in the recruiting process.
So we can never say to a kid, if you come to Villanova, we're going to give you X amount. I can say to a kid, hey, Colin Gillespie made this amount last year. This is what the baseline is for Villanova basketball players, and that's it. We're really never going to jump out there and say, hey, we can pay you this, this, and this. Please come to Villanova. And Coach Neptune can't say it at all either. It either has to come from Ashley Howard or Randy Foye. And
sorry, I just wanted to ask one question on the baseline bit. So you can say, here's what the baseline and what have you. In terms of like Delta, where are we? Like how far? Like I guess we're saying, hey, we're catching up, and I certainly get the sense that you guys have built an amazing organization in a very short period of time, and give you a lot of credit for that under the gun. And there must have been a ton of late nights, long weekends, and what have you to kind of get this up and running. I guess from a baseline standpoint, just to give fans a little bit of motivation, what are you guys hearing from like about where we stand as our baseline, so to speak, relative to who we view as competition?
Yeah, competitive baseline is it? Yeah,
yeah.
So the way we're doing this, like I said from the beginning, Villanova is a unique. The basketball team is unique. The institution is unique, and the way we're running Friends of Nova, we're doing it a little differently. So when we look at it, our top player and our walk-on gets the same amount because that's what Coach Wright envisioned. We're all the same. We all play a role in this, right? No one is bigger than the next person. So that's unique because if you look around the country and you look at, what some of these kids are getting, and you look at the guy that's in the middle of the rotation or a walk-on, it's not even close. So that's what makes our approach. That's what makes Friends of Nova. That's what make our alumni and everyone that's been helping us from the beginning. That's what makes us so special because everyone is bought in. And if you look at the guy number 14 to number 1, everyone understands that they're in it together and everything they're doing is even. You guys go for that, Ash, if you want to.
Yep. So we have that in place where all of our guys are getting something from NIL. And it's our responsibility moving forward to be able to put us in a position where we raise the baseline for all of our guys, right? So for men's basketball, like Randy said, this past year, it was even across the board. Moving forward, based on the efforts that we put in and the support that we get from the Nova Nation in terms of really building up our collective, it'll give us the opportunity in Coach Neptune's first off season to be strategic about how the funds are allocated, right? But it's really significant that we build this war chest. If I'm being honest, in comparison to the other blue blood schools that we compare ourselves to, we still have a ways to go. We need to be aggressive in these next couple of months to really build up this war chest so that, the coaching staff has a chance to be competitive on the recruiting trail. If I'm being honest, the conversations that are had in recruiting, we're not allowed to just make promises. We're able to give, student athletes an idea of the work that we're doing and in a roundabout figure of what our guys are being paid and how they're being compensated. So, that's what it is right now. Even though we've covered ground over the last couple of months, we still have a lot of work to do, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that work is going to come from the support of everybody that's listening, and telling a friend, telling a brother. We all know that Villanova, every Villanovan has 2 family members that went to Villanova, right? so like telling your family, telling your friends, connecting with your fellow alums, talking to them about this new day and how you can have an invested interest in the success of the athletics programs, and let's get everybody excited about the opportunity to move into this new era of NIL.
I can't imagine like a cooler thing, like, to be honest, right? Like from going back in the days of just like of when we were in school, we graduated, Rob and I graduated in 09. Willie was 15, 16, 15. Like, we saw all these guys from Randy to Alan Ray to Kyle Lowry to Scotty Reynolds to Darren Hilliard to Javon Pinkston, all these guys who have just worn the uniform with such pride. All the players from other teams. You think of like a Matt Caesar from football, etc. Like, you think of all these guys and all these athletes across, Maddie Segrist now, like, have worn the name with such pride and have been such amazing ambassadors of the university, and for us as fellow alumni for them to be the face, and for us to be able to say, hey, we appreciate that, like, we want to contribute and be a part of that, is really exciting. I actually, like, when it came out, I was super pumped. Obviously, it changes the competitive landscape. And one of the things that you guys mentioned was kind of like the concept of re-recruiting a person who's currently at the university, because that someone else is out there being like, hey, do you want to come over here? You can hit the portal. You're here in a month, and you could come here and play. And we got this NIL deal and this, that, and the other thing. So it's not only just the one time, hey, we got to get up to speed right now. It's kind of like establishing that continuity, because this is going to happen every year from here on out. So I guess my question in all of that is kind of, how do you envision this building up over the next 3 to 5 years so that we can have a real sustainable NIL program?
Yeah, like, what's the vision? What's your vision 5 years from now?
Yeah, our vision is just to build it up where it's bulletproof. We're trying to build a war chest where if we have to retain a player, right, we retain a player. Like you said, schools can go after guys, right? If we have to go into the transfer portal, we have to go into the transfer portal. We have to go and get a 5-star that's a Villanova type player. We'll do that. But everything we do, right, when it deals with the collective, it has to be right. We're not going to go into a situation and saying we're just going to get this guy out of the transfer portal because he's really good at basketball. We want to know what type of person you are, right? How you interact with the student body on campus. We're not just going to go get a high school kid, right, because he can jump really high, he can do this, right? He has to be completely bought into what we want to do. And every single guy on our team, it's a saying, we play for those who come before us. They understand that they play for the name on the front of their jerseys and not on the back of their jerseys. And that's what made this tradition so well respected around the country. I talk to Coach Wright a lot, and he always says, so many coaches call me and just ask me, how do I get so much out of my players?
Hmm.
And it's because of the guys that came before them basically laying it down. Like me laying it down for Kyle Lowry, me and Allen laying it down for Mike Nardi and Kyle Lowry. And then it just keep going to the Scotties, and then to the Archies, and then to the Jalen's, and then to the Gillespies. And now we got some young kids on our team that could be really special if they continue to work hard. So I think our plan is for the next 3 to 5 years is to build this war chest and have as much flexibility as possible going into any area where we feel as though is a gray area, which is the transfer portal, right? Which is retaining players, understanding exactly what we need and how we're going to approach it. And I feel as though once this war chest is built a certain way, Villanova, we're going to do it the right way, but we're going to be right where we always been, and we're going to do it the right way.
Are you exploring different things like just using UConn as an example because it's a fellow conference member? They just opened up their NIL store, right? Are you exploring things like a store or anything of that nature?
You know, that's why I love working with I call him Ashley, but I love working with Coach Ash, because the conversations that we have and the avenues we go down for hours on the phone, what we can do with this, to get everyone a great experience. We done had conversations. We sat next to, a guy from Monster, and he's like, yeah, Monster is a sport where, guys skydive and stuff like that. You think you have a student athlete that want to skydive? I'm like, no, that's definitely not happening. A guy's not skydiving, but that's the kind of conversations, and you have to be open-minded to all of this stuff and willing to have the conversations, willing to hit these bumps in the road and understand that, on the other side of that cloud is a brighter day, is a sunny day. And I think as a team, that's something that we do daily, dealing with people. We get our emails are there. If you go to Friends of Nova website, you can email me and Ashley directly. We get so many questions about things, and it don't even turn into anything. But the way we're programmed is like, we're Villanova basketball people. We treat everyone with kindness. If it don't matter if that email is about, if it leads to nothing, I'm responding to you. We get on a call and I say thank you regardless. And I think that's what's going to make this this collective special, because it's coming from a place where we understand that we can't do it alone. We need the fans, right? We need everyone on deck. And I think that's where we're going to take off at in the future. And we're not there yet, but the people that are behind us and what me and Ashley are doing, we're in a space where we understand exactly what we got to do and how we're going to get there.
So, quick follow-up question to what Chris mentioned about UConn store, which is really interesting. It seems like you guys are getting a lot of emails already. So, two questions then, I guess. One, are you guys open to ideas from the fans and from the alumni about different engagement opportunities? Is kind of question one. And then question two is like, are there particular things that you guys are exploring more than others that our fans should be kind of thinking about, of like, oh, I've got a business that I think it's a great way that I could get involved with the guys and, create some engagement opportunity?
We're open to all opportunities. We talk daily about different ways that we can, create opportunities to engage the student athletes. The reality is, Randy and I, since October, our singular focus has been like really building out our war chest and, getting with, big time Villanova supporters that, have the bandwidth to make significant contributions to the collective. As we move forward, now we're going to start to expand just the reach and the depths of how we look into supporting the collective, right? So we gave you a couple of the ideas that of the things that we definitely have in the works. We haven't thought about an NIL store, but some of our student athletes have their own merch that they're selling,
Yep.
that you can go to their websites and buy that, just directly from them, right? So, a part of it too is, where the collective, there are other opportunities for our guys that are going to come up that they can create on their own, right? So if there are opportunities that we feel as though make sense for the collective to engage, we're all on board. But we're also here to sort of kind of direct if there's something that may be singularly focused towards one of our student athletes. We may be able to direct you to their representation or somebody that's in their camp, if the opportunity makes sense, right? So one of the things that the collective is trying to do is we're trying to organize our engagements during a time where we know the student athletes have time, right?
Yeah.
So if you start to overwhelm them with different engagements and different things, now you're taking their focus away from basketball and academics, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is, you're a student first at Villanova, right? So none of our guys are going to miss class, miss an academic responsibility to go satisfy an NIL obligation, right? So one of the things that we're trying to do with the collective is be really intentional about when we schedule the events, so that it's in sync with our guys' schedule, so that they can take advantage of their NIL opportunities, but not be compromised from their academics in basketball.
And Rob, I wanted to say what a lot of people listen to this podcast, so we don't want to give away all our secrets, what we can do and what we're planning. So we're doing a lot. So we just don't want to give it away because it's the competition. So we don't want them to steal it.
Totally. No, I hear you on that. I'm curious, as people are reaching out with these different ideas, are you guys acting a bit as like a filter to help kind of funnel stuff down to through reps down to the players so that they're not inundated with stuff? Is that one of the roles that you're playing as well?
Exactly my question.
So when the opportunity presents itself, it will. It hasn't been a ton of that dialogue. Most of the dialogue that we've had has really been more centered towards how we can build the collective and people giving us different ideas and feedback, different ideas and thoughts on how we can strengthen the collective. But we are here working for the student athletes. That's the most important thing. Randy and I are here strictly for student athletes and to help them capitalize on it, and not compromising their well-being and allowing other people to really take advantage of them as well.
I like it. I need 2 requests. I need 1, a t-shirt with a big Mark Armstrong face on it, and 2, I need a t-shirt with a big Maddie Segrist face on it. So those are my 2 requests. You guys can do with that what you want, but I'm willing to pay for it. So.
Rob, just buy a Maddie Segrist jersey.
I will. I actually, it's on my list. I've got a great collection. I don't have any of the women's teams, so I'm definitely going to add it.
Get me one too.
All right, we'll make that happen.
Rob, you need a shirt that says
Maddie's about to break the all-time women's record.
Right? Yeah.
All-time record.
All-time record.
I'm a big Maddie stan, so I make sure we try to mention her on almost every podcast.
Yeah.
She's easy to mention. She's easy to mention. What she's doing this year is unbelievable.
So we could put a plug in right now for Maddie Segrist. Let's bring Maddie Segrist back for one more year. What are we going to do, Nova Nation? How are we going to make that happen?
And that's interesting though, because if the NIL's there, hey Maddie, come back to the main line.
Right.
Friendsofnova.com.
Your options are
waiting for you.
Draft or NIL, and we could compete.
That's really interesting. I like that.
But Rob, I gotta go back. You need a shirt that just says more Hausen. You just need a shirt that says more.
That's true. That's very true.
Rob spelling more with as in Justin.
Oh, that would be good too.
Yeah,
we're off topic, but I like
Sorry.
it. I like all the ideas, guys.
Yeah,
down for all of them.
So I guess have we not asked a question that you guys thought we would ask about, or is there anything kind of relevant to Friends of Nova that we haven't really dove too deep into yet that you wanted to clarify or anything?
I think we're good. Everything that I thought you guys would say or ask, you definitely did. So I think we're pretty good.
Okay. I guess while we have you guys, what do you guys make of the St. John's game coming up? We got a big game at MSG. Our part of the thing that we do in the podcast is talk a little bit of is obviously talk some hoops, but I just curious what you guys are seeing with St. John's coming off of a big win versus UConn, and Nova coming off a great kind of comeback victory against Georgetown there. So I was curious kind of what you guys see in the St. John's game coming up.
Yeah, it's another Big East battle. St. John's is a great team. We put together 40 minutes of Villanova basketball. We will be okay.
I like it. Coach, what are you drawing up from the game plan? Slowing it down, keep trying to keep them in check, not let them get out too much in transition?
Well, obviously, like that's the key versus St. John's is just ball security, taking care of the ball, making sure you establish yourself inside, trying to get them in foul trouble. They're an aggressive defensive team. Taking care of the ball, winning the rebound battle, collectively rebounding. Then we got to make some shots, baby. Got to make some shots. And sticking together for 40 minutes, right? I think that's one of the best things and the most impressive things that I've seen about this team is that, they've been down and they never quit, right? I think the leadership, even from the coaching staff, and it's trickling down to the team. You see that within this team, right? And even though we've been a little shorthanded all year, the fight is there. So I expect to see that fight on Friday night, and if we can do that for 40 minutes, I think we'll be in good shape, like Randy said.
Yeah. Question. It's kind of the hot seat, but not really that serious. Let's go back in the day, back to when y'all were playing. If you all had a chance for NIL, and a chance to profit off your name, image, and likeness, what would you have wanted to do? Randy, you mentioned NCAA 2005, kind of being able to profit off of that. What's something that you think about in your playing days? Like, damn, if I could have done that, that would have been really cool. Hot seat, kind of asking off the top of my head, but what comes to mind when you think about opportunities that you would have loved to have during college?
During that 2005 season, I had a chance to go to the NBA.
Yeah.
And the way that the campaign to bring me back started with my grandmother. Right. So we get to go home for Easter break, and my grandmother never really said anything about, basketball related. And the first thing I walk in the house, I drive in from Jersey, and she was like, "You know what, baby? I think you need to get your degree." I look at her, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, they saying you're gonna go to she said National Basketball Association, right? And I was like, no, it's like we played pretty well, average, big time, had some big time games in the tournament throughout the Big East. So I was like, I think I'm gonna test the waters. And, I come back to campus and I have a press conference with Coach Wright to basically say, am I gonna, leave or am I gonna stay? And Coach Wright looks at me and was like, I hope you spoke to your grandmother. She's a lovely lady. We can do some really special things next year, which was true. But he was like, I just think you need one more year. And he's like, one more year. He was like, I'm telling you, you're going to take off. So I say to Coach Wright, I'm going to stay. But me thinking about that year from my junior year to my senior year, if I was in the NIL space, I could have probably demanded anything. So I just, like, everyone was on the same page, from family members to friends and coaches, to go back and finish up and get my degree. And I had a special year, my senior year, man.
Yeah.
You did all right.
Don't ask me what I'd have got NIL. I'd have probably got a free cheesesteak from Drexel.
Coach Ash,
Hey,
you
listen.
need to be on that baseline plan to get everybody else's.
And you know what? You would have
not baseline, basement plan.
you would have eaten that
Hey, look.
cheesesteak. You would have eaten that cheesesteak because Coach Shaq wouldn't have been chasing you down to make sure you didn't eat it.
Hey, listen. Luckily, I didn't play at Villanova. I ain't have to deal with Shaq. I'm happy to get the 7-Eleven Slurpee plan. 3 Slurpees on Tuesdays. Or NIL plan for myself when I was in college.
Oh my goodness!
Amazing.
You can't eat bad and work out with that guy.
Rob and I definitely can't.
Rob and I worked out with him once, and it was a disaster for me. It's ridiculous.
Say for one of us, one or the other, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, I got one final question. It's one of our recurring things that we do on the podcast. Every week, we give an alpha dog of the week, and we give a Shaq Fit man play of the week. Ooh. So I guess my question for you is: we just had the Georgetown game. What was your Shaq Fit man play of the week? Kind of like the strongest, game of that time, and then who is your alpha dog?
So obviously, I thought the alpha dog in that Georgetown game was Cam Whitmore. I thought he set the tone in that game. I thought he played with great energy. Obviously, he made some huge plays. And I think that the man, what was the first
Shaq Fit. Alpha dog Shaq Fit.
I think the Shaq Fit play. It was the mental toughness of Brandon Slater getting called for the travel, then coming back the very next play, getting the steal. That I stole that from you, Rand.
Yeah, you stole it from me, man.
From me, bro. But yo, great minds think alike, man. We've been spending a lot of time together, bro.
Yeah.
But I thought that Shaq Fit play is obviously, is bigger than just the physical toughness. It's the mental toughness component of Slate to brush that terrible call off by Clarence Armstrong, and then come back and get the steal, kick up ahead to Cam for the game winning dunk.
I'm gonna say for my alpha dog, I'm gonna roll with Coach Knapp. Right? I just feel as though through adversity and everything that has been going on with the injuries, you think about Moore being out. You think about Whitmore being out. You think about Longino. Now you think about young guys and guys that never played before, guys being put into roles that they never been, you look at Caleb and you look at Slate, they're looked at and they saying, hey, I need you to score now. I know before you were spot up shooters and defensive guys, but you need to score. And for Coach Knapp to go through all this adversity early on in the season, halfway through the season, and for him to still be out there every single day with that approach and that passion, still preaching Villanova basketball, that's who my alpha dog goes to. And my Shaq Fit play is Caleb coming down the lane off of 2, dunking the ball, getting busy, getting on that rim.
I like that. I like that. My Shaq Fit man play was the video that actually Villanova posted, but we were getting killed. They were hitting everything from the mid-range. They couldn't miss from the mid-range. And Eric Dixon got the switch and got that enormous block late in that game. And I thought that was
a huge play. That was a huge.
It was important mentally too. Like we needed to get the stop, but like to finally get a stop on the mid-range jumper, which they were feasting on the entire game. That was so big.
I thought it was cool that they showed the bench like locked in, like, oh, it's going to happen. Eric's going to get this. And then he got the block. It was really cool.
One thing that you can't say, like it's been obviously, Andy, you talked about the adversity, but these guys are locked in and they're so together. And you see kind of like a video of a timeout and at the end of the game, there's no one looking around. Everyone is totally bought in, fully 100% locked in. So
you think about the injuries, right? You think of no one has ever had their head down. We don't want no one to feel sorry for us, right? We're going in the right direction. Knapp is our alpha dog. He's leading us in that direction. And just watch, as the season continue to go along, watch what happens.
Yeah.
And we're going to take off, and then we're going to be looking like we told you so.
I think everyone would be happy to be able to that if that happened. I think we're all looking for a
It's a
told you so
grind.
moment.
It's a grind, and it's going to happen. Trust me.
Awesome. Well, look, guys, I really can't thank you enough, both for obviously coming on the podcast, but also in addition to that, kind of everything that you're doing with Friends of Nova. This is, in terms of fans, in terms of what we can do to help, in terms of everything that you're doing, for you guys to come. Ash, you were just a head coach. Randy, you played in the league for many years and obviously do a ton of great work with your foundation. Like it for you guys to kind of set aside the time to kind of come back and be a part of this and still contribute so much to the culture of Villanova, the family of Villanova basketball. Like I think on behalf of the fan base, I have to say thank you very much, because we need it. This is a important calling, and we want to keep it rolling with you guys.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. Whatever I can do to help my team, I'm here to do it. And when they came calling for this, I was excited about it because I understood this direction that college sports are going in. So thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks, y'all.
All right. Well, that's it for the podcast this week. We'll be back to you after the St. John's game. We'll talk a little bit of St. John's recap and also talk about the upcoming game after that versus Providence. Villanova's got a little bit of a bye week, so we got some days off, and we'll get back to you with some good content coming after the St. John's game. So thank you everybody for listening, and as always, let's go Nova.